The DC Comics solicitations for July of 2022 are in. Shockingly enough, there's a lot of Batman. We got a big event. Dark Crisis is going to be in full throttle in July. So today I'm going to talk about some of the insane prices. There are some insane prices from DC Comics, especially because of the talent involved on the projects. We're going to go over that. I'm going to talk about DC Comics by the numbers. If you're a Batman fan, how much you're going to have to put out. If you only want #1 comics, because maybe you're a speculator, how much is that going to cost? I'm going to go over all those numbers. And then we're going to go through the solicitations themselves one by one. I'm going to tell you what I like, what I don't like, what my lock of the month is. The one comic book I can guarantee you will be worth the money that they're charging you. So it should be a lot of fun. This video is normally a little bit longer than others, maybe 25, maybe 30 minutes, depending on how into this I really get. Pull up the seat, grab yourself a Snapple, maybe a hot cider, although you probably should have done that more in the Christmas season. And if you're here in the Philippines, grab you a San Mig Light, because that's the best beer that we have here. So let's get right into these insane prices DC Comics are charging because of the talent involved. I don't mind throwing out a little extra coin if you had the right creators involved, especially the writer. And DC Comics essentially got rid of all their big name writers. They're all over on Substack, or they're working, on independent projects, creator-owned type stuff. So they don't have a lot of talent in there as far as the writers, but they're still charging you like fucking Scott Snyder and some of these others like Jeff Johns are on these projects. It's absolutely insane. I'm not going to talk about any of the $5 projects, and there's too many of those, but we're going to go into them. First up, we've got for $9.99, 10 bones. Superman Space Age for Mark Russell. Who in the hell asked for a Superman comic from Mark Russell to begin with? And certainly no one ever wanted to pay $10 for a single issue. I don't care how many pages are in it. This is a 3-issue miniseries. They're going to charge you $30 to read a Mark Russell comic. You won't even get to know what Superman thinks about any of this stuff. It's just going to be Mark Russell using the character to parrot out whatever it is that he feels about the subject. Mark Russell is an absolute train wreck. He is not a talent. $10 for Mark Russell, completely unacceptable. They're also charging $7.99, $8, and this has been ongoing, Batman Urban Legends. Listen to this creative lineup. Ryan Cady, Joey Esposito, Alex Packnadel, and Dan Waters. Now, Dan Waters is a damn good writer. Do I really want to pay $8 for $2 worth of Dan Waters' story? I don't know anybody that's still reading Batman Urban Legends. Almost every story sucks. Why does this thing still exist? I don't know anybody that has a good word to say about Batman or Urban Legends. I don't care that it's an anthology. I don't care if it could be 160 pages. These comic books absolutely blow, and they should not be charging $8 for a bunch of crap that doesn't matter. Let's get into the $6.99 comics, which apparently is the Aquaman sweet spot. We don't have any Aquaman anymore. All the Aquaman comics have been canceled. But for $7, you can get Aquaman and the Flash Void Song from Jackson Lanzig and Colin Kelly. The other Aquaman comic out there is Aquaman Andromeda for Ram V. Ram V is one of the real talents in comic books. Jackson Lanzig and Colin Kelly art. I don't mind throwing out a little $7 for a Ram V insane story about Aquaman at the bottom of the ocean fighting monsters, but as soon as you start trying to charge me $7 for the Aquaman and the Flash from Jackson Lanzig and Colin Kelly, I do have some objections, especially when you see the cover and how bad that art looks. Stop putting these guys on Prestige Plus books. No one asked for the Prestige Plus Aquaman book from Jackson Lanzig and Colin Kelly. The last set of comics we have are for $5.99, $6. Batman 125 from Chip Zdarsky. That's his debut on the series. I'm not surprised DC Comics has decided to take advantage of us on the debut of Chip Zdarsky on the Batman book. Black Adam, The Justice Society Files, Hawkman #1, Kevin Scott. That's associated with the movie, whatever. And then Artemis, Wanted #1, Vita Ayala. $6 for one of the worst comic book writers in the world. And they're pretty much spoiling, I'm assuming, the big reveal for Trial of the Amazons here. Artemis was already cleared by Cassie Sandsmark. I wonder why she's wanted. Could you spoil your books a little bit harder, DC Comics? And nobody wants to pay $6 for a Vita Ayala comic. I don't want a Vita Ayala comic for free comic book day. Why are you even charging for this creator anymore? Non-talent, no fan base, no sales associated, but gets to do apparently a one-shot. It's better be a one-shot. Stop charging these insane prices for these lackluster creators. You would have charged me $10 for the Superman comic. Jeff Johns better be on that sumbitch. You would have charged me $8 for a Batman anthology. It better be led by Scott Snyder. $7 for Ram V I can take, but for Jackson Lanzig and Colin Kelly, and charging anything more than 10 cents for Vita Ayala is a slap in the face of customers everywhere. Now let's talk about DC Comics by the numbers. I'm going to talk about the overall numbers, how many comics they got coming out, how many number ones. We're going to get into Batman, Superman, Dark Crisis, all that stuff. We'll break it down, and then we'll get right into these solicitations. First up, we've got DC Comics total, 51 new comics coming out. 8 of them are number one issues, or 16% of all the new comics, for a total of $44. If you are a speculator, you're going to have to go out $44 or $5.50 on average if you are a Batman fan. The numbers are a little bit better this month. I'm going to be honest with you. It feels like DC Comics may have taken their foot off the pedal with Batman. We're getting less Batman comics than before. As far as Batman himself, 9 new comics starring the Dark Knight himself, or at least a character claiming to be Batman, whether it be Jace Fox. For a total of 18% of all new DC comics will be Batman, $45 in total or $5 on average. Batman-related comics starring Batman in a team book or a Batman-related character like a Nightwing, Harley Quinn, like that. 9 new comics, 18% of all new comics from DC will be Batman-related. $37 total or $4.11 per issue, much more manageable. If you are just a Batman fanatic and you have to have everything that's Batman-related, 18 new comics in July of 2022. 35% of all new DC comics will feature Batman in a role, whether it be starring, supporting role, or a Batman character. Far less than the 48 to 50% that it's been for the last 4 or 5 months. $82 total, so it actually dipped under $100 finally, or $4.56 on average per issue. Now, if you're a Superman fan, it's a bit more manageable, although that $10 Superman Space Age comic does throw off the numbers here. We're getting 4 new Superman comics. 8% of all new DC comics will star the Blue Boy Scout himself for a total of $23 or $5.75 on average. As I said, that Space Age comic absolutely drew the numbers up. Wonder Woman, you only got to get 3 Wonder Woman comics. 6% of all new comics, $15 in total or $5 on average. If you are a big fan of events, DC Comics is going to be in full throttle for this Dark Crisis event. They're going to be killing off the Justice League. We're going to see new Justice League appear, and we're going to have the Teen Titans maybe try and save them and whatnot. Big fan of Joshua Williamson. I'm a big fan of Daniel Sampry. We'll see how this goes. We've got a lot of Dark Crisis comics. 5 new comics in total. 10% of all new DC comics will be related to Dark Crisis in one way or the other. $23 total, or $4.46 on average if you are a fan of DC Comics Dark Crisis, and you got to have the whole event. So those are DC Comics by the numbers. Batman numbers dropped out a little bit, and that is a welcome change. It shouldn't be so prevalent in the line, although we do have the big event kicking off. And if you're a fan of Dark Crisis, it's going to cost you a little bit of money, but it could be worse. It could be a Marvel event, and it could be way overbloated. It'd be even way worse than this. Now let's get into these DC Comics solicitations. Have a little bit of fun with it. I'm going to tell you about the very best comic book, the one you can lock it up right now, get it on your pull list, and we'll make fun of some other stuff. Not surprising, DC Comics starts out with their moneymaker, Batman 125, Chip Zdarsky's debut on the flagship series, Jorge Jimenez returning to the Batman title. And this one's got a lot of area covers. We got a 1 in 25, a 1 in 50, a 1 in 125, a 1 in 250, a 1 in 500 Jim Lee cover. I'm assuming it's the black and white will be the 1 in 500, but obviously going heavy on the variant covers. Not shocking for the debut of a new Batman writer that's supposed to be in for the long haul. We talked about this. This is probably the best 1-2 punch on Batman and Detective Comics, which we're going to get to here in a second with Chip Zdarsky and Ram V, 2 of the really great comic book writers that are available to DC Comics right now. I think this is very exciting. We know it's a big story arc kicking off. I've talked about this in full on the channel, but I'm very excited about this. There's too much Batman, but you need to have a really great writer on Batman himself, and Chip Zdarsky's the man. As far as Detective Comics 1062, the debut of Ram V with Raphael Albuquerque on the art. We know this is the first part of a 4-issue opening story that has something to do with there's some type of music in Gotham and there's demons on the street and whatnot. Ram V is the perfect choice as the counter to Chip Zdarsky's Batman. This is going to be absolutely fantastic. Moving on to Flashpoint Beyond number 3. This is where I start to get scared because I see the name Jeff Johns and I'm excited. I see the name Jeremy Adams and I'm excited. Then I see Tim Sheridan and I go, one of these things is not like the other. We've got 2 really good comic writers and Tim Sheridan. What the fuck is he doing here? Sir Monaco on art. The very first issue was very good. Reviewed it here on the channel. Definitely recommended it. We'll see what happens when these 2 new writers come in and start working with Jeff Johns. But I've read every single comic book written by Tim Sheridan at DC Comics, and they've all been awful. Thomas Wayne's investigation into Clockwork Killer goes sideways when he's confronted by a deadly alien invader the world knows as Project Superman. That sounds pretty cool. Dark Crisis number 2. We're into the big event. The House of Nightwing Birds. Joshua Williams and Daniel Sampry, as the good people of the world mourn the loss of the Justice League. The forces of evil have seized the opportunity to wreak havoc in a world without heroes. Leading the charge is a superpowered Slade Wilson. And here we see Nightwing fighting somebody in front of like a burning Teen Titans tower. I think DC are definitely going to go out of their way to let people know that the Titans are going to have a big role in this, because that new Justice League, the fake Justice League, the JLQ that's replacing the real Justice League, ain't going to work. So I think you're going to see more stuff like this. Dark Crisis, Worlds Without a Justice League Superman number 1. Tom King, Chris Burnham. We all asked for an aged down John Kent, a real John Kent. That's not exactly what we're getting here, but no one ever asked for this interpretation of the character from Tom King. And John Kent should never wear a Robin outfit. Absolutely stupid. Speaking of stupid, Dark Crisis, Young Justice number 2. The Tale of Two Wonder Girls. Megan Fitzmartin. The Flash 784, Jeremy Adams, Amin K. Nahupan. This is one of 2 direct tie-ins to Dark Crisis, the other being the finale of Aquamed, the search for Barry Allen. As I mentioned in a video recently, he is lost. Wally and Wallace have arrived on the planet Pariah, has Barry trapped on, but it's not quite a happy reunion among the Flashes. Black Adam, Justice Society Files, Hawkman number 1, Kevin Scott, Brian Q. Miller doing the backup story, and then Scott Eaton on the main story art. I'm going to check it out because I like Hawkman. I'm actually a big fan of Hawkman, and I definitely plan on watching Black Adam, so I'll check this out, though I'm not expecting much from it. Kevin Scott is not a bad writer, but he's not a good writer either. Artemis Wanted number 1, Vita Ayala, the $6 Vita Ayala comic book that no one asked for. I do feel bad for Skylar Partridge, who's a fantastic artist. You want to see some great Skylar Partridge, go read Resident from Vault. Absolutely beautiful, really great comic book. Deserves better than to be stuck with a Vita Ayala comic book that's $6 that no one's ever going to buy, and this is coming out of the Trial of the Amazons. I wonder why Artemis would be wanted. Did DC Comics just spoil the big reveal that's supposed to happen this week in their Trial of the Amazon event? I think they did. DC Mech number 1, Kitty Porter, Baltimore Rivas. I don't know, Marvel's doing something similar to this. It does nothing for me. Young Justice Targets number 1, Greg Weisman, Christopher Jones. Queen Perdita has been kidnapped. Mysterious armored assailants have snatched the Voltavon Royal out from beneath the Bowhunter security, leaving Green Arrow and Black Canary poisoned and comatose in the process. I'm watching Young Justice with my little boy. We are enjoying it together, and I have a feeling that we are going to get to read this comic book together. We don't get that a lot in comic books today. 6-issue miniseries, Greg Weisman, absolutely. Big thumbs up for me. I'll be reading this one, hopefully with my 6-year-old. Superman Space Age number 1, Mark Russell, $10. It's time to lock it up, folks. This is the lock of the month, the one comic book from DC Comics. I guarantee you will be worth the money. This will be worth every penny of the $5 they charge you. Batman White Knight presents Red Hood number 1, written by Sean Gordon Murphy and Clay McCormick with art by Simone DeMeo. The world of Batman White Knight continues to expand in the exciting new miniseries. With things heating up in Neo Gotham, Jason Todd revisits his post-Robin past to find the one ally he believes will help him turn the tide in the battle against Derek Powers. Absolutely. I really like Red Hood. I like Jason Todd. I like Sean Gordon Murphy. I like Simone DeMeo. I like everything about this comic book, including the $5 cover price. I can pay $5 when I believe there's going to be quality involved. Lock it up. This thing is absolutely going to be worth your money. Put it on your pull list, because you're going to want to read this, especially if you like the White Knight universe and you're reading Batman Beyond the White Knight. Batman Superman World's Finest number 5, Mark Waid, Dan Moore. This thing is absolutely brilliant. If the Red Hood comic book wasn't being solicited this month, this would be the lock, because this thing is absolutely great. I've read the 2nd issue already. This is something that every Batman and Superman fan should be reading. If you don't like the current state of DC Comics and you don't think they get the characters right, you need to support this comic book and let them know that you like it when people treat the characters with reverence and treat them true to who they are. This thing is absolutely badass. I don't want to spoil anything with Batman, Superman, World's Finest. I'm shocked that I'm singing the praises of a Mark Waid comic book, but he gets the characters, and that's the most important thing. And I cannot turn down good comics, even if I don't personally like the writers these days. I have to support. DC versus Vampires All Out War. I'm enjoying DC versus Vampires, but I don't know that I'm enjoying it enough to have like spin-offs and stuff. This is a 6-issue miniseries. Matthew Rosenberg, Alex Pactadel, but just Matthew Rosenberg without James Tynion like outlining the story. Sounds like it's probably going to be a Failaruski for me. I just don't like Matthew Rosenberg. He's written some good stuff, and the DC versus Vampires is great, but I just don't know that we needed this spinoff series so fast. I don't like DC versus Vampires that much. I know Drew will disagree with me. Multiversity, Teen Justice number 2, Ivan Cohen, Danny Lore. Action Comics 1045, Philip Kennedy Johnson, Ricardo Federici. Another one of the really strong titles that DC has coming out right now. This story on World has been fantastic, better than I ever could have anticipated. I thought Ricardo Federici was a weird fit for Superman, but on World, it absolutely works. The World revolution escalates as Superman gains the upper hand, forcing Mongol to take desperate measures. Meanwhile, a fallen ally of Superman is resurrected at a terrible cost. A new connection to Jack Kirby's Fourth World is revealed as the World saga mind-blowing conclusion nears. Yes, please. Aquaman and the Flash, Void Song number 2, Jackson Lanzing, Colin Kelly, the $7 comic book that no way. Aquaman Andromeda number 2, the $7 Aquaman comic that I say yes to because you got Ram V on here. You actually have a quality writer. Christian Ward's art should be very good. When an underwater explosion rocks the crew of the Andromeda, Aquaman comes to the rescue. But the damage has already been done. It looks like we got some Black Manta sighting. Ought to be pretty fun. Aquaman number 6, Chuck Brown, Brandon Thomas. The finale that they forget to mention, it's actually a finale here in the Solicitations. This is also a Dark Crisis tie-in, but this is the end of the road. Just did a video this weekend about it. I think it is not cool that DC Comics would lie to fans. They have an opportunity right here, right now, to tell people this is the last issue, that this is closing out, and they chose not to do it because they are lying to people and they are misrepresenting what this series is. A 6-issue miniseries, and they knew it from day one. Bullshit. Batgirls number 8, written by Clunrad with Robbie Rodriguez and art. At least they're not wasting Jorge Kuroda's amazing art on these fools anymore. That's the one silver lining. But don't read this. It's crap. Batman Beyond Neo Year number 4, Colin Kelly and Jackson Lanzing. Art by Max Dunbar. The Sword of Gotham strikes. Neo Gotham gave Terry McGinnis a chance to leave. He was warned a Batman could not live in this new city. I'm just going to stick with Batman Beyond the White Knight for my Batman Beyond story that I want right now. I've heard this is actually good, though, but I didn't read it because it's Colin Kelly and Jackson Lanzing. Batman Fortress number 3, Gary Whitta, Derek Robertson. This is going to look great. Time is running out after a disastrous first encounter with the invading alien force, and Batman is forced to change his tactics and team up with the last person on Earth he could have expected. I guess the big thing about this series is we're supposed to wonder where Superman is and why Batman ended up stealing his Fortress of Solitude. Yeah, I guess we'll find out. I just think it's a bad time to do this comic book. There's too much Batman. Batman Killing Time number 5 of 6, Tom King, David Marquez. This thing started out like a house of fire, damn near a 5-star comic book. You get in the second issue and he already drops the ball. He'll be destroying a character soon enough, although technically you could say he's just destroying Selina with every single issue he writes with her. Batman the Night number 7 of 10, Chip Zdarsky, Carmine to something or other. Magic is in the air as Bruce Wayne travels to New York City to study under the legendary John Zatara and his daughter Zatanna. Well, that'll be fun. I think this has been a good series. At first, I didn't think it was really necessary, but now that Chip Zdarsky is the writer on Batman, I think this might play a part in what he's doing there too. So I'm definitely going to keep reading this one. Batman Urban Legends number 17. Black Adam number 2, Christopher Priest, Rafa Sandoval. His power and his very life draining from him. Theo Teth Adam is confronted by a specter from his past, haunting him with treachery he employed to gain his powers and forcing him to confront an inescapable truth. There is no redemption for Black Adam. Definitely on board for this one. Should be damn good. Blood Syndicate Season 1, number 3, Jeff Thorne, crisscross with Juan Castro. I will be honest, I think they picked the wrong guy to lead this new milestone effort. I have absolutely no clue why they decided that Reggie Hudlin was the man to lead this, but he's messed up a lot of the characters. I'll probably give this Blood Syndicate a shot, but Jeff Thorne's Green Lantern wasn't that great either. You know what I'm saying? Catwoman 45, Titty Howard. Never in a million years. DC versus Vampires number 7, Matthew Rosenberg, James Tynan. I think I'm just going to stick with this title rather than reading that spinoff. We've only got a few issues left after this, and it's been a lot of fun. It's an entertaining comic book, and that's all I can ask at this point. Deathstroke Inc. number 11 under the new writer Ed Brisson with Dexter Soy on art. I've enjoyed the Deathstroke Inc. stuff. I'll definitely stick with it. Ed Brisson has written some great stuff in the past, and he's written some okay stuff in the past. Duo number 3, Greg Pak. Fables 153, Bill Willingham, Mark Buckingham. Glad to see Fables return. This ought to be a lot of fun. I wish it wasn't a 12-issue miniseries, but apparently that's what it is now. Future State Gotham 15, Dennis Culver, Giofo. Future State should never be revisited. It was an abomination, and they should do everything in their power to make people forget about it. Releasing this isn't going to do that. Harley Quinn 17, Stephanie Phillips, Riley Roswell, the very worst creative duo in all of comic books. There's no worse writer paired with a worse artist than Stephanie Phillips and Riley Roswell. It gets no worse than this. This is absolutely trash. Save your buddy and take a Passerooski on old Harley Quinn here. I Am Batman number 11, John Ridley, Christian Duce. If you want to read a John Ridley comic, you got to go to Marvel. You got to read Black Panther because that is a really good comic. This is a really boring comic. I dropped it after about 3 or 4 issues, and I ain't never going back. Justice League versus the Legion of Superheroes number 5 of 6, Brian Michael Bendis. Hopefully there's only one more issue after this, and then there's no more Brian Michael Bendis at all at DC Comics. The dude needs to go. Trash. Looney Tunes 267, in the current state of DC Comics, this might be a top 5 DC comic at this point. It's that bad. Monkey Prince number 6, Jane Yang, Bernard Chang. I've heard good stuff about this series, but I never read it. It was too Batman-centric from the very first issue, and I have read too much Batman as it is. Naomi season 2, number 5. Second to last issue here. Please, no more Brian Michael Bendis after this. Nightwing 94, Tom Taylor, Bruno Redondo. The series that should be good, but doesn't ever do anything. It's the most stuck-in-the-mud comic book I've ever read. Tom Taylor's introduced so many interesting ideas from the very beginning, and he hasn't finished a single storyline, and we're like a year into this already. We're over a year into his Nightwing run. Nothing has been concluded at all. Nubia, Queen of the Amazons, number 2, Stephanie Williams, Aletha Martinez, and Mike Morales. I think this was originally going to be an ongoing, and now is being solicited as a 4-part miniseries, but I think this might not come out. I think the series might not actually ever get printed out. That's kind of what I heard. Poison Ivy, number 2, G. Willow Wilson, Marcio Takara. Robin, number 16, Josh Williamson, Roger Cruz, Norm Rapud. This ought to be very good. I've really enjoyed the series. I like me some Flatline, and I like seeing her on the cover. Robin's investigation into the Lazarus Island is put on hold as Lord Deathman strikes. Damien and Hawk are called to Tokyo by Flatline to help her deal with her crazed mentor, which means Killer Bros road trip. Yeah, I'm going to read that. That sounds good. Superman, Son of Kal-El, number 13, Tom Taylor, Clayton Henry. Apparently this is the debut of Dreamer. I guess it's a trans character from the Supergirl series. I don't see that as a selling point, but I guess your mileage may vary. Task Force Z, number 10, Matthew Rosenberg, Eddie Barrows, Eber Ferreira. I had to make a choice. DC versus Vampires or Task Force Z, and I chose DC versus Vampires, even though Eddie Barrows is one of my favorite artists, and I just haven't kept up with this one. I'm glad it's about to be over. If you're liking it, keep reading it, but I jumped off of it real quick. Jurassic League number 3, Daniel Warren Johnson, Juan Gideon art. I'm all over this. I'm on this like white on rice. With Wonder Dog entering the fray to help Bat-Sor and Super-Sor defeat Brontosaurus, the Jurassic League is officially formed, but Darkseid's mysterious machinations continue to reveal themselves, and this Triassic Trinity might not be enough to stop it. Yeah, I'm there for that. Sandman Universe, Nightmare Country number 4, James Tynan, Lissandro Etherin, and Danny. I am not reading this, but I am told from Drew that this is good, but I'm over James Tynan and his slow writing tropes. Swamp Thing 15, Ram V, Mike Perkins. The comic book looks so good, but Ram V just slow rolled this series too much for me, so I had to step away from this one, but it's not something I wanted to do. Wonder Woman 789 from Clune Rat. I think I'll take a pass on that, and that does it for your DC Comics July 2022 solicitations. Apparently, DC Comics consider Wonder Woman under Clune Rat to be their least important comic book, as it's the last one solicited. At least that's the way I take it. There are definitely some comic books you're going to want to take a skip-a-rooney on, but we got Batman White Knight, we got the Red Hood tie-in book, we got that Greg Weisman Young Justice book, we got Chip Zdarsky and Ram V on Batman and Detective Comics. That ought to be awesome. Philip Kennedy Johnson's Action Comics has been great. Robin's been really good. So there's definitely some things that you're going to want to read within this July time period, but be selective because a lot of DC sucks right now. If you are a DC fan and you made it to the very end of the video, I'm assuming that you are into comic books and you would like to know what's happening with DC Comics after this Warner Discovery merger. Well, I made a video on that. It sounds like there's going to be a big overhaul regarding DC Comics, DC Films, everything DC, now that we got David Zaslav in charge. Definitely watch this video, check it out, and get the latest on what's going on with DC Comics due to this merger.